Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. ADAM-12 is an American television police crime drama that was created by Robert Senator and Jack Webb. The storyline for the series is that Pete Malloy and Jim Reed are partnered uniform LAPD patrol officers. Pete is the veteran and Jim is the green one. At the beginning of their partnership, Pete has been on the force for 7 years, his previous partner having been killed on the job, while Jim is fresh out of the academy. Their patrol unit is codenamed ADAM-12. As Pete and Jim attend to calls and patrol the streets of LA, they deal with the entire gamut of police situations, from the dangerous to the mundane, from the absurd to the ridiculous. Through their budding friendship, a continuing point of contention between the two is their different lifestyles, each who tries to convince the other that they are happier and thus should be emulated. Jim has a loving wife named Jean and a growing family, while Pete is a confirmed bachelor who wants whoever's his latest girlfriend solely to be casual. The majority of the series explores the relationship between the two officers. It's a serious show, yet it's also fun about coworkers who grew to be friends and in the end, brothers in arms. The humor that's within the dialogue served to break the tension and build the sense of camaraderie between the older, more experienced Pete and the young rookie Jim Reed. Now, when you look at the series, you have to realize that Jack Webb was a genius who really created the first reality television show with Dragnet, and then expanded the possibilities with this show, and expanded things even further with the show Emergency. You see, all these shows are completely fiction, but it was fiction based on reality. LA police officers were paid a finder's fee to bring in their best real-life stories to Webb and let him incorporate them into his shows. Webb wanted to bring the life of these cops to the screen with all its boredom, paperwork, and momentary excitement included in it. He was such a stickler for keeping it real, several episodes of ADAM-12 were actually used by police academies as training films. Their relationships were the key to the show. Malloy often approached situations with a cool exterior, and Reed often gets visibly emotional in a variety of situations. He's also the officer that is most likely to bend the rules for a greater good. But Malloy often acts as his rudder, preventing Reed from going too far. Within this 30-minute show, the dialogue had to be snappy, but there was plenty of time for the humor that they inserted in it. And that was completely critical to making this show work and their sense of friendship work. You just gotta love guys that would often flip a coin to figure out who's going to pay for a 10-cent cup of coffee. The officers of the Rampart Division would spend a lot of time gambling to get out of paying for meals, coffee, and snacks. You'll find that Reed and Malloy are often ribbing each other about something. In one show, it was Reed's squeaky shoes, and in another, it was Reed giving Malloy a hard time about his newly grown mustache. In the early seasons, the officers wore 8-point hats, and the buttons on their shirt pockets and epaulets on their shoulders were brass, and the jackets they wore were the wool Melton type. When Edward Davis became LAPD chief, he did away with these items, and they went with the round hat, antique silver buttons, and the Eisenhower type jackets. All of this was reflected in the later seasons of the show. The car used for Reed and Malloy's close-ups was towed by a camera car. The car's windshield would often visibly show reflections of the camera and crew, so they ended up taking the windshield completely out. But this caused a problem too. This led to the wind blowing their hair, which didn't look normal, so they ended up creating a shield to enclose the camera and the front of the car. These police cars they used in the series were a central idea to the show. Jack Webb wanted the vehicle itself to be considered a character. This because they spent so much time in their cruiser, and their time driving on patrol or responding to a call was central to most episodes. Most of the scenes in the older seasons were filmed at the Universal Studios lot, mostly on Courthouse Square and Colonial Street. Starting with the third and fourth seasons, the series gradually shifted to filming in actual locations in LA and the San Fernando Valley. The police station used in the show was the Rampart Police Station, located at 2710 West Temple Street. It was built in 1966, 2 years before the series began, and could thus be considered state-of-the-art for most of the series' run. Had Malloy and Reed been actual LAPD officers, both would have led extraordinary careers. While the majority of officers never fire their weapons in the line of duty, these two fired shots several times a season. Both of them killed at least one man in a shootout. Both were kidnapped together and individually, and they were both shot at least one time apiece. But they were kind of a step above. They couldn't be bribed, bought, or influenced in any way, as they had real strict, high moral standards. Now, the one person that's in every show that you never see is Sharon Claridge. She plays the dispatcher for 166 episodes in the show. And all of this came fairly naturally because she was an actual dispatcher working with the Los Angeles Police Department prior to her becoming involved with the Dragnet series from 1967, which led to her being used in this series. She didn't have any desire to really be on the screen at all, and you wouldn't have thought that she would have agreed to do a small cameo in the 5th season, but she did. In the scene, she plays a police clerk from who Pete needs a favor. You only see her in a profile shot, even when the camera zooms in during the exchange of dialogue. Her voice was one of the most recognizable characteristics of the show, and you can pick it out as soon as you hear it. Take a look back at this classic show. It's a fun one to revisit. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.